My inspiration for the study was the fact that in actual clinical psychiatric practice, it's often very difficult to get a consistent diagnosis on an individual patient, particularly if the patient has more than one diagnosis. And the reason for that is that there is no objective measure of any diagnostic entity in psychiatry. So in this study, what we did was we took 99 individuals in 3 different groups. So we had a group of people who had major depressive disorder, we had a group of people who had bipolar type 1 disorder, and we had a group of healthy control individuals. And what we did was we fed the brain scans, functional magnetic resonance imaging brain scans, into a very sophisticated calculation algorithm to try to identify, okay, what's different among these 3 categories of brains that can help differentiate them. And that was work primarily done by our collaborators in New Mexico and in China. And what they came up with was a classification algorithm that was approximately 92% accurate for differentiating those 3 groups, specifically differentiating unipolar major depressive disorder from bipolar disorder, because that's clinically the tricky bit. In complicated patients where the diagnosis is unclear, the best biological indicator of what illness that patient has is which medication that person responds to. And in general, people with major depressive disorder respond really well to antidepressants, but not so well to mood stabilizers. And conversely, people with bipolar disorder respond really well to mood stabilizers, but actually can get worse if they're treated with antidepressants. So we used that classification algorithm to put it to the test with more difficult to diagnose patients who we weren't really clear what the diagnosis was. So we sent off the brain scans unidentified and had them put each one of them individually into the classification algorithm and tell us what they thought that person had, bipolar disorder or major depressive disorder. What we were looking for is a prediction of which medication class would be best for that individual. And again, in 11 out of 12 cases, it was accurate.
So what we measure is different types of brain circuits in the individuals that are part of the study. And among those, the computer uses the known diagnostic information to identify which of those networks are the most important in predicting the classification of the patient. So the group of Vince Calhoun used independent component analysis and combined with support vector machines and a cross-validation pattern fairly unique to their group in order to separate the brain activity, the type or the patterns of brain activity of participants into those 3 groups. This is a type of machine learning, and so in other words, the machine doesn't know at the start of the study which participants are going to be part of which group, but over time the machine, using the learning set, the 99 participants that were part of the study, forms new knowledge that allows future data to be input into the algorithm and separated into the 3 groups.
I think one of the most exciting things about this study is that we were able to use a biological measure to go beyond the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is the standard diagnostic technology for psychiatric illnesses. And that means that at some point in the future, we may be able to administer some kind of an objective test, if you will, whether it be a brain scan or something that we find that maps onto a brain scan, that might be able to very clearly and objectively diagnose a person's psychiatric illness. And this, frankly, puts psychiatry on a completely different level that is much more compatible with the rest of medicine, where we have objective measures of things that are our illnesses. So I think this actually is a step towards a real revolution in psychiatry.